so that you get to learn more things. Then compare and contrast them.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Ask questions for people who taught you or people who are above you. Because even me, there's a certain lady called Millie. I tend to ask her, she's a coffee genius, she's a lady. I tend to ask her a lot of questions. I bug her with questions. And sometimes she's like, but Amon, I can't believe.
It's a CEO bench, so usually people want to assume that all CEOs are over-learned and stuff like that. So I will change the script this time round. I consider myself a certified hustler.
If I'm looking to know who you are you Ugandan? If yes.
About the shots.
What are the values that define you as Ugandan?
Did you discuss
That's the easiest question I think to answer. I am a typical Lao man from Erute North, in a place called Ogur. And where I will be laid to rest is in a village called Agwe. So if you go there and you just say Otoa Tony, they won't really know me because my father is also Otoa Tony. You have to ask for Junior, and when you're asking, you have to ask with an accent. Junior Tikwene, where is Junior? And they will identify me. But I'm typically Ugandan, only Ugandan, from Lira. I pride myself from being from Lira. Earlier on, I was joking and saying I'm the coolest Lago south of Karuma. When you cross Karuma, there are so many. But when you're down the south after Karuma, I think I'm number one.
Wow. Well, now that you know Tonyo Toa is Ugandan, and of course, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
I think it's the love for country, love for nation. You know, truth be told, the country is in a lot of, it's a crisis. Leadership crisis, economic crisis, social crisis. There's so many mismatching areas. But at the end of the day, it's home. You know, you cannot run and abandon your home because of the issues in your home. I think that then creates an opportunity for you to do something to change what's happening and what you see as a crisis. So in terms of what I see as a value, or what I take out of that for me, I think it's just the love for country, the need to serve country the best way I can. And I mean, I can't say I can change everything, but the little I can do to create a difference, I think is more meaningful.
Wow. Mr. Tonyo Toa, growing up, what did you want to be in life? And what was the journey like for Mr. Toa?
Yeah, you know, my father is crazy. My father would call us and he would show me the compass. The idea was supposed to be a pilot. You know, the planes would fly over our house and my father would be like, yeah, you're going to be a pilot. But of course, as you grow, you realize that you have so many things that really define you. I was never a sportsman. So I enjoyed a lot of debate and, you know, a lot of indoor activities. And that is, I think, what really drove me into some of the things that I do up to today. Public speaking, the love for debates and really a lot of intellectual discourse and all this stuff. But besides that, I think it's also the fact that I won't lie, I didn't know what I wanted to be.
Completely disconnect VPN. Welcome to the CEO Bench, ladies and gentlemen from all across the world. My name is Eddie Okila, and of course the CEO Bench exists to bring you the stories of people who are on the top, doing it on the top, leading on the top, people who have been through change management, and of course are transforming lives, and they have transformed their own personal lives to reach there, as well as those who are headed to the top. What are their stories? What have they been through? What can we learn from them? Do they have some really interesting experiences to share with us? Yes, they do. And of course, on the CEO Bench this week, this morning, or this evening, or this afternoon, depending on which part of the world you are located, is the one and only the man who needs no introduction, the African youngest man on planet Earth that is doing great and amazing stuff. Been over to the creative industry, done that, is now thinking for different businesses at different levels. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my guest this morning, Bedford Buyungo, aka Professor in the Making. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much.
How have you been?
I'm great.
You have been overwhelmingly nominated to come back to the CEO bench.
Oh,
Would you like to tell us why would these people overwhelmingly nominate you by over 30 votes to come back to the CEO bench, yet you have been on the CEO bench before?
I wouldn't know, but I appreciate them. They are in a better position to let you know. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Bedford, we want to just go straight to our interview this morning. And of course, I want you to just share with us a few of, the things, the journey, and of course, what you have been through and what you're still going through as a person on the top. The CEO bench is a very interesting, place to be. We look at things from a different perspective, and I want to just give you a small background to what the CEO bench is about. One, we focused on individual people who are leaders and in position of leadership.
Yeah.
The program, of course, is focused on discussion about leadership, change management, and transformation, both at individual level and as well as the corporation levels where you are, as well as the community where you live, and the nation where you lead or where you reside. All of us are leaders in our nations, but people often think that only people who are defined by political boundaries are the ones who are leading. But all of us are leaders at our levels, and it's important that we keep reminding people that even as a border man on the streets of Kampala or in the streets of any streets of the city anywhere in Africa, you are a leader. Because the things you're doing at that level is leadership. How you change your life from a border person to becoming a taxi driver, to becoming a bus driver, to becoming a pilot is what we're calling change management at that level. But also, if you're moving from being a creative person at your level to becoming a creative thinker, to becoming a strategist, to becoming a research and developer person, and for being that person that think for brands and think for businesses and create things, that's change management.
True.
When we're looking at transformation, we look at the foray of moving from this one space to the next space to the next space is key for us going forward. And that is what the CEO bench exists for. And so this morning, I want to ask you this question which I've asked you before.
Yeah.
If I am looking for a small and fast and quick definition of who Bedford Buyungo is, what would be your definition of who you are?
First, I identify as a Pan-Africanist who has passion for research and development.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm an entrepreneur, and I think in there has many things. When you talk about Pan-Africanism, it means you're pro-Africa, you're pro-African progress. When you talk about research and development, it has an element of research, it has an element of development, developing products or brands or whatever field you're applying R&D. And when you talk about entrepreneurship, still it speaks to something. And there is reason why those three things. There is reason for Pan-Africanism, there is reason for R&D, there is reason for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And for me, it is that I as a Pan-Africanist, I was like, the only way we can progress Africa is probably through the element of economics. So, yes, I know other elements work hand in hand, but yes, we've tried politics and people have played us. We've tried all other elements, even donor, funding, and we've not gotten to places we've gotten to. So I was like, why don't I get this craft, R&D craft, and be able now to birth products. We, of course, with my marketing and brand knowledge, to birth brands from end to end and go compete in the world.
Yeah.
And I saw that as an opportunity to birth brands and compete on the global stage.
Yeah.
Like Andrew Garcia says, he said that Africa needs needs trade, not aid.
Yeah.
So when you say Africa needs trade, not aid, it means that you need to put something on the table for the people to buy. There is a lot of things that work for you to be able to sell in the States, for you to be able to sell in Asia, for you to be able. But thank God that every region of the world, God has put something unique.
Yeah.
So the avocado that I'm going to sell from Uganda is not the same as the one that someone I'm going to compete with from Asia has. So in a nutshell, and I'm reminding people who get confused of who I am, that I'm simple, a Pan-Africanist, who has a passion for research and development and entrepreneurship.
Wow. Well, you now know more about Bedford Buyungo. He's more of a professor than just a simple man you know. Of course, if all the professors were as simple as him in their making, I think would go far. And of course, the last time he was here, he said that, you know, I am a self-proclaimed professor. And of course, you can see from there that you don't have to have a definition beyond the boundaries to understand what he has just said and to believe with him. But I would like to welcome you to the CEO Bench, and I would like to encourage you today to make this program as interactive as possible. Share with us what your comments are and even your kisses and disses. When we say kisses and disses, I mean, tell us we're doing very good. We will be able to take that feedback. And if you think we're not doing very well, tell us what you would want to see. And the CEO Bench is here to make sure that you actually have that information. And now straight to our discussion, Bedford. I just want to take you through to a couple of things that people have been talking about.
Yeah.
You have been the newest CEO on the bench of your company. And by definition of a CEO is not just that you have too many. We often believe that to be at a CEO bench, you need to have many layers of system put in place or structures that put in place. And I'm saying, yes, that's true, but what about the CEO who still starts the company from scratch, gets it to a certain level, and start to cross the boundaries? And moving to continents. Mm-hmm. And when you cross to the continent, you of course fully now become the CEO definition we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And you've been doing this from the Saint Africa. We've seen the brand cross the borders and become something of a development. You're working on another brand called the Voyage Africa, if I get the name very right.
African
Voyage, yeah. Which is the boat building company. Mm-hmm. And the thinking is great. Mm-hmm. The motivation is great. We just want to start from there. Where do you draw your motivation to think like this from?
I partly tackled that in the first question. Mm-hmm. There's something called vision, and I think I talked about it last time we were here. Yeah. Once you have a vision, then your picture is about 70% clear. The 30% I'll leave it to God. Yeah. So when you have a clear picture, then the Mzungu or the white man says the end justifies the means. When I want to go to Kampala and I'm using public means, I behave differently from the man who is using public means from Kampala to Masaka. Mm-hmm. One is going far, one is going near. And by default, when you're seated in a taxi and you're going to Ntinda, the normal saying is Momasao. Mm-hmm. So you know that it's close, but because you're very clear of where you're going, your behavior follows. Yeah, automatically. It means I don't need to greet my neighbor because soon it's going to be the posture even changes. Yeah. When I'm, for example, at the front seat, I'm looking around, and soon I say, conductor, Masao. But the guy going to Masaka or Kigali using Masaka Road, by default, the posture is going to change. The first thing you do is, how are you, because anything can happen along the way. So the vision is very important, and my vision is deeply linked to where Africa is going. And no one has come out to tell us about where Africa is going. the 54 countries have not sat, or African Union, and probably made it clear that Africa needs to be this, Africa needs to be that by this time. It might be there, big documents, but not in one statement that Africa needs to be this. So many of us Pan-Africanists, the doers, the talkers, the many Pan-Africanists or people who are pro-Africa, everyone has their contribution to African progress. Now mine is deeply linked to African economic, African progress. And since I come from the brand world, marketing world, I decided that I will champion the global brands that are coming from Africa. I know many people have gone before me, but mine is to contribute to African brands and see them compete globally, because I know when the African brands are competing globally, that means jobs, that means many things, and that means good life, good health, many things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bedford, a lot of the nomination that came this time around to bring you back to the CEO bench were a number of people who started their companies. From the data we're seeing at the CEO bench here, a number of people who started their companies, and just in 2019, some of them had great aspirations.
Yeah.
They had moved out from their jobs and started something else, and they were doing really great, and they had plans. The visions were clear, the missions were clear, and then the pandemic came from nowhere, and it is accounted for to have started somewhere in China, and nobody saw it making its way in January or by December 2019 and January 2020, it arrived here. Most of us were expecting it to be here a little bit much later because China is really far away from Africa.
Yeah.
But it made its way here quite faster and quicker.
Yeah.
And a lot of these companies, a lot of these individuals that started these companies, that moved from their former employment to start these companies, are now facing a big challenge of even extinction and slipping back to employment. Some of them are really running mad, and talking about guys who started the company by employing from 10 to 15 to 20. I met one of them yesterday that says he employs 45 people from when he started, and now he's going to have to cut down everyone because the vision is not going where it's supposed to be. Pandemic has happened.
Yeah.
How do we help such fellows move forward? How have you been able to do it? Because you've been in the same space. Almost around the same time is when the Saint Africa comes.
True.
And it rolls out and it's working. What would be the best advice to give from the background perspective of a marketer, brand developer, an advertiser, and now an entrepreneur, as well as a Pan-Africanist who is thinking from a different perspective altogether?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question, and for the people who nominated me along those lines. It's sad what is happening and what is going on in the world, then Africa, and of course our country. It is sad, and no one saw this coming. But even in what I call such career, there is always a blessing. So I'll start by encouraging these people to accept that the foundations are shaken.
Yeah.
You did mention around 29 people had started business. I think we were online in 2020.
Yeah.
Saint Africa started selling globally in 2020.
Yeah.
And so the first thing is to accept. So acceptance really takes you far. It means it's going to manage your posture. It's going to influence your posture towards the issues. And I did, when you told me about this, I did write something. Probably that's the reason you call me professor. Yes, it's an interview, but I take the opportunity to teach and I'm not a professor that has been awarded a degree, and it's just a nickname.
Yes.
So, like I said, the first thing, and our viewers can even get pen and paper, and then we write a few things down to guide us. So I did write 11 points on how to maneuver. I don't know if that we have the time to, but I'll be first. And feel free to interject, and we'll make it interactive, enjoyable, and quite something for our viewers.
Yes.
So, like I said, mine was to first accept that the foundations are shaken, because now that is going to help you measure, you know, where the cracks are. But if you sail through and like nothing is happening, then you have a problem. Yeah. It's like an ostrich buried their head in the sun and think the whole body is not being seen, but you know, the whole of the body is on the other side. Yeah. So point number 2 is to not to make by not making things worse, is to act.
Okay.
To apply action, to act. And first we said that you accept. And then now we are saying you act. Of course, businesses have different challenges. Like your friend you talked about has 45 guys. He has to think about how to survive the 45 guys, how to lay off the 45 guys. He has different challenges, but it's not just 45. It's the rent, it's the many things. Yeah. So the thing is to act. Act. If you have a rent, then you need to write to the landlord. Is to act. And pick yourself up, be strong. I know where strength is going to come, because it's hard to tell someone who's lost even friends and family to be strong. But we need to be strong for each other. And part of why we're even spending this time is to help our friends be strong. Yeah. Is to help them, you know, strengthen their resolve in them, you know, making a way through this pandemic. Yeah. So the point number 3 that I wrote is dealing with reality, not fiction.
Wow.
You get what I mean?
Yes, yes.
So reality, I talked about in a previous point about when you're talking about rent, for example, that's the reality. Yeah. You probably rent an office of, say, $1 million shillings, Uganda shillings, and yes, you need to deal with that reality. You need to write to your employees, to the landlord. That's the action we talked about. Yeah. But the reality is not dealing with fiction, what people are saying, what you had the other side. You analyze and then you act. Yeah.
Wow.
The other day, I think I was seen on social media walking, but I wasn't walking for fun. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. I wasn't walking for fun. I had a deal.
The business.
I had a business in town.
Yes.
And someone was paying some money for me to do something. And I was like, okay, you
can't drive?
I can't drive because I'm not amongst essential workers. And I didn't have a bicycle. So I was like, and in Entebbe, I thought about where to buy a bicycle. Probably I thought they would be more expensive. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk. So I prepared that night, ate fruits, you know, did all what I thought would take me through the 42 kilometers, and I walked. So as people are enjoying my walking moment, because I shared it on social media, internally I knew that I'm going to finish something. So that way, I managed to walk and get to Kampala after 4.5 hours, and I was able to you know, meet my client and then go through that.
So it was actually walking for you to go
to do business.
To do business.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to hold it right there, and I want to interject from that point. Many of us, when we become CEOs or by CEOs, I mean Chief Executive Officer. It means that there are smaller other executive people under you here that runs probably finance, human resource, administration, that runs marketing here.
Yes.
But you are now the chief because you are now looking at things from a visionary point of view, directional point of view, and finding the pathways for us to get there and solving the problem that the team here not. So one of them is to get business and to connect business to them. Then they can do the business. That's the CEO we're looking for.
Definitely.
Yeah. So at that level, and we learned this from a business development manager called Dr. Jinfo Olo.
Yes.
Talked about it on the show here. And we learned something from there that at that level you're focusing on strategic partnerships and direction.
Yes.
Now, many CEOs at that level can't sit on borders, don't want to walk on the road, and when they can't move, when there's no vehicle, they're always driven. But yet we saw you here with Saint Africa. I don't know whether Ugandans and many Africans actually understand or been to that website to see what Saint Africa is really putting out there. But when we see you walking from there 42 kilometers to Kampala and we're enjoying the walk, and you are coming to meet another CEO who is giving you business, and when I learned of the business volume that you are picking from this CEO and going, it was such a very, I would say, mind-boggling situation to see how when we rise to a certain level, we can't come down. What informed your decision to do that?
It's still, I was looking at the business and I'm like, of course I can't send anyone.
They are also in lockdown.
They are also in lockdown, but also I was meeting the CEO, so he needed to be at that level. So he's like, are you able to make it? And I'm like, yes, I'm able to make it. I didn't tell him how. So I started working, and for me it was what I'm winning for the rest of the company. And of course when I win that, I win it on behalf of the rest. So it is always on behalf of the rest. I'll go the extra mile. Yes.
Wow. We want to take a break, Bedford, and when we come back you'll pick it up from point number 4, which is the reality. We are learning from the CEO and as well as the business proprietor, the founder, and you nominated him to come to the show. He has 11 points so far, 3 knocked down, and I think that 1, think about it, if I'm not mistaken. Number 2, take action. Number 3, look at the reality. All right, we'll be right back after the break.
Fitness Junction would love to thank you for your continued support and patience during these trying times. With the ongoing pandemic, we have come up with different standards of operation that can keep you safe and keep us safe. Come have a quick tour with me.